Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm very excited to welcome everyone to join us today. We always have an amazing time when we hang out on Small Biz Talk. If this is your first time joining us, hello, my name is Sadie Uribe, and I'm the media producer for the Los Angeles Regional SBDC. The SBDC is a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. The LASBDC offers no-cost services through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. It's your tax dollars at work. The Los Angeles Regional SBDC network operates 7 service locations throughout Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. Our services are also offered virtually. We are here to help. We empower small business owners by offering tailored solutions through personalized one-on-one business advising, cutting-edge workshops, and comprehensive programs, all provided at no cost. We are dedicated to supporting your entrepreneurial journey every step of the way. Lori, I'm so excited to be here. I already got a preview of what's happening for today's session, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be high energy. That's the only way I can describe it.
It definitely is. In fact, I was scribbling notes right now to get ready for the interview. So, when I'm like scribbling notes ahead of time, you know that something cool is going to happen. So, welcome everybody. And I feel like there's a little bit of, spring, summer in the step. I just feel like we made it through winter and the sun's about to start shining on us. So, I kind of like that. But let's get started because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for our discussion today. Here is the upcoming sessions. Now, I kept the Ask Lori Anything, so you're going to have to hear me ramble again at the end unless somebody comes in, but you guys love the ramble. So I'm giving you plenty of time. Start putting it into the chat. Do a shout out to Sadie, Lori's ramble. You guys call me all kinds of things, I know. I know a couple of you got like really funny statements about my rambling, but let me know if there's any specific topics you want me to ramble on at the end of the month. Kay's coming back with STEM's Catering Company. Fascinating story on a pivot, a turnaround, and now a growth. So this is going to be really fun. And Diana's been on the show before as well. We got 2 second time on the show people. And Diana just launched a book. And what's interesting is she said she wants to come on not only talk about where her company's going and what she's learned, but also what she learned during publishing her own book. And her words were, there's so many people that are looking at to do this. She learned so much trial by error, and she wants to share the tips that she learned to do the book. So that'll be a great resource as well. It's Small Business Week, guys. Officially, not just I declared, it's officially Small Business Week right now. It's a great time put on by the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA, to celebrate and support businesses like yours. So I wanted today to be about free resources, and Sadie's going to put a ton in the chat. I told her, I said, I know you, I gave you a ton. She's just going to keep putting stuff in there. So the SBA has put together a bunch of free resources, webinars, and tools that are perfect for small startups, growing companies. I just kind of checked off and picked 5 highlights that's worth checking out. They have free webinars and virtual events. They're running daily sessions on topics like marketing, assessing capital, digital tools, lots of cool things. They got Q&A. Super practical for real small business owners. They have learning and training resources. Now, these are consistent. They're there all the time. So I just wanted to make sure you had the links to how to get to them. Everything from writing a business plan to understanding cash flow, even using AI for your business. Then they have an access to capital spotlight with a special focus this year on funding options for small businesses, including microloans, SBA loan programs, how to prepare to talk to lenders, mentorship and counseling. And of course, free one-on-one help through SCORE, which is another partner, and the Small Business Center. So SBDC, we're a partner of SBA. So this is one of the best weeks of the year to tap into free support that's designed exactly for businesses under $1 million in revenue. So I've given you a bunch of links. Now, I also wanted to include some additional resources. So that's the good stuff. That's the cool stuff, right? On the flip side, what I'm hearing is from, a certain number of clients, it's IRS time, right? And so there's issues that they can't pay the IRS debt. They need a payment plan. What do you need to do? So IRS launched this new online tool to help taxpayers resolve tax debt, and it's called the Tax Debt Help tool. So I put the link in there. You can go to their site, and then it also talks about setting up a payment plan, and it goes through different fines and fees. So if you're concerned about making your IRS payments, these are really good resources. And please note that there is more penalty, a higher penalty on failure to file than failure to pay. So I know I always talk with a few people who didn't file, they were afraid to pay. File, guys, because if you don't file and you don't file on a timely manner, you lose the 7 years. It's no perpetuity. They can go after you, and the fees and fines for failure to file are higher. So it's better to file, find out the debt, make a payment plan than it is to not file. Okay. And I didn't realize that until I went and became an EA. I was not aware of that fact. So I try to share that with everybody. Okay. So here's the bottom line from Lori's Corner today. You don't have to figure everything out alone. And that sentence is not only about what I just said, but also about what we're going to be talking about with the guests. So I did a dual on that sentence. So take advantage of Small Business Week, grab a couple free webinars or book a mentoring session. Even one good idea or connection this week can make a real difference. Okay. You got this. Celebrate being a small business owner and keep growing smart. Okay, let's jump into today's show. Whenever I close the thing, it always makes me lose my little paper here. So here, I was on a good flow. New way Zoom's doing this. I am so excited to have Erica Curry on. Erica is a licensed LMFT who believes everyone deserves to feel secure, believe in themselves, and achieve their biggest goals. I love that sentence. She talks about how each person is responsible, another favorite word of mine, you guys know that, for being their own best teammate. I've never heard anyone express it this way. I love these words. Erica learned this as a young athlete. If your mind isn't on your side, you've lost the competition before you even started. Erica also states that luckily there are plenty of things in our life that are within our control, okay? And plenty of skills that can help us take better care of the areas we have influence over. Key words once again. This understanding translates beautiful into being an entrepreneur. Erica also walks the talk as she has created a successful company that also provides her with the lifestyle that she enjoys. And we're going to be talking about Erica. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Erica, I got to tell you, Erica and I met through the SBDC, and I always laugh. We get on, we talk about a topic, and then we can't stop talking. You know, it's just like there's so many concepts that come up
Yeah.
between us. We just start talking and talking and talking.
And likewise, it's like when we started working together, clearly you've been doing what you do so long. It's like when you're teaching me something new, it's like you can sense where my fear is coming up and you're able to like validate and be like, and here's how we're gonna keep going. Like you are one of my best teammates, and I appreciate it so much.
Oh, thank you. I love talking with you. And so I was talking with Erica before the show. There's, a couple things that I really want to accomplish during our discussion. I'm going to start out in a second by just getting you to tell us a little bit about your pathway. Did you like grow up and at 17, you go, I want to be a therapist? I don't think so. I think there was something that caused that
Mhm.
pathway to develop. But I'm going to give kind of a spoiler alert where we're going to go next is that I love how Erica is an entrepreneur creating her company the way she wants to create it to support her lifestyle. So that is the spoiler alert I'm going to go to next. But how did you end up doing what you're doing?
Yeah. So where it all started, I knew I was going to play a sport in college. I was a Division 1 springboard and platform diver. What I wasn't so sure about was like, what the heck am I going to study? And I actually was taking a psychology class my senior year of high school. And my high school teacher was like, hey, you really liked our clinical psychology portion of this class. Cause I was like confiding in him, telling him like, I got into school the way that I wanted to with a sport, but like, what do I do when I get there? And him telling me that he saw the like spark in me when we were specifically in the clinical portion of that class made me be like, well, I literally have no direction. That's really nice feedback. I'm gonna study psychology. Sounds good. And then, I go through college, I'm having so much fun in my sport, meeting so many people, creating so many amazing relationships. I get towards the end of college and I'm like, uh-oh, what does one do with a bachelor's degree in psychology and a minor degree in Spanish? Not a whole lot without continuing school. So I went through a similar, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And at that point, my point person was my athletic director, and she's just such an amazing woman. I'm so grateful that she let me come and cry in her office once a week for an entire semester trying to figure this out. And she was the one who told me, like, you connect so well with people. You've taken some counseling classes. Like, what do you think about becoming a therapist or like doing communications? And I was like, huh. All right. So I looked into being a therapist and I saw that Cal State Long Beach had a really good counseling program. And to me, Cal State Long Beach was my dream school. When I was little, I grew up driving past that school. So I was like, oh, I'm set. Like if I get into that program, I'm going because I'll get to like put a check mark on a life goal of mine to attend that university. So basically, I accepted a lot of guidance and like took it in, sat with it, allowed to see myself to discover like, is this right for me? And then went down those paths. And then that took me down a couple of different avenues of like populations I've worked in. I can like get into that if we want to right now, but that's how I got into becoming a therapist was really talking with other people and then making a decision.
I can't imagine you doing anything else. You are so good at it and you're so aware. I just can't even imagine you doing anything else. So you definitely had some divine direction influencing your pathway. And you were talking about what do you do with this degree? I remember, I my first degree was AAS, science and biology. Yeah,
Mhm.
completely different. And I remember thinking I had my first like midlife crisis at 20. And I think that old statement of like midlife crisis happens to us now throughout our time periods because we're not so much saying I'm going to do this the rest of my life anymore. But going back to the clinical aspects of your business to give our audience kind of a feel for what's the day in the life, what is your focus, let's get into kind of
Mhm.
what the business structure is and what type of clients and programs you're doing so they can get a feel for that part of it.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. So
Right.
I specifically practice dialectical behavioral therapy, which is a skills-based therapy. Its foundation is mindfulness skills. So that includes connecting more clearly with our intuition or like the highest part of ourselves. And it also gets into skills like how to observe, describe, and participate fully. Like, when you feel like you're in that state of flow and you just wish you could be there forever, there's actually skills we can practice to hone that so that we can call upon it more frequently. And also non-judgmentalness, one mindfulness, and effectiveness. And non-judgmentalness has everything to do with discernment. And then other skill sets include distress tolerance, how to get through a difficult situation without making it worse, and then emotion regulation and communication skills. And that is more around how do I gain more control over my emotions so that I'm in the driver's seat consistently? And how do I maintain and enhance relationships in my life? And then on the opposite side of the same coin, I also am trained in radically open dialectical behavioral therapy. So this is more for individuals who have too much control over their emotions. And usually we're not very vulnerable. I would say like I relate to this way of being because it can be scary to be vulnerable, but also if we're not vulnerable, we're very disconnected from people and it can create some deep, deep sadness and loneliness. So that form of therapy is focused on how to create a more flexible mindset, how to be more open, because oftentimes we can get stuck in a fixed mindset or a fatalistic mindset. A fixed mindset is like, I want things to go this way, it can only go this way. Or we flip into fatalistic mind. If it can't go my way, I'm going to give up, give in. I'm not trying anymore because it didn't go my way. Where flexible mind is meeting in the middle and being able to say, that's interesting. Approach something with curiosity and see all of the possibilities that could lay in the middle of our middle path.
You
So,
know, what's interesting, you always use my favorite words too. You don't even know you're like curiosity is one of my favorite words. Now, I may not be clinically correct in how I'm reparaphrasing it, but to me, what you're talking about and the skills you teach goes into the ultimate supreme power that we have internally. Because when we take away the fear, when we add curiosity, I don't mean to sound repetitive, but all the answers are within. And there's just this magical thing. I'm speaking from my own biography, but there's this magical thing that when you get connected with yourself and truly feel confident and value in yourself. And I go in and out of it. I have to, it's not like I can stay there. But when
Mhm.
I can get to that point, there is no problem because
Mhm.
it's just a situation that I have the ability to solve. So I love the mindfulness and this, self-judgment. I want to go there for a second. Man,
Uh-huh.
I feel as though the I remember learning this through, we talked about my NLP programming that when we think of self-judgment, we're always kind of led to think about judging others, but I think it's the way we judge ourselves that is the crucial part because we're only judging others because of our own self-judgment. Now, you correct me on any clinical things I'm saying, this is my belief, but I think we should go with self-judgment for a second.
I love that. And even to the effect of what you just said, when I'm teaching non-judgmentalness, I describe it as like we got two types of judgment. Evaluative judgment is the one that we're trying to drop. That's like the good, bad, right, wrong, cute, ugly, like all of those types of words. And discernment is the judgment we want to keep. And when we first start, it's oftentimes easier to start noticing how we judge outward. And once we start catching that, it almost starts to naturally like seep in inward. So it's easier, it's like more attainable immediately to drop our judgments outward and notice what things we're labeling as good or bad specifically. That's usually where I tell people to start. And then as time goes on, I start asking people, now can you start just noticing over the week what self-evaluative judgments you have? And can we start focusing on how to use discernment rather than evaluation? So, I mean, yes, exactly. I'm following you. Hmm.
I love it. And you and I always get to have these like uncomfortable conversations that most people don't even like to have. But I feel, and I'll give my best words to it, Erica, and you'll make sense out of it. But I think that over the last 10, I'm old, remember, I'm old, I've been on planet Earth a long time, right? But I feel like over the last 10 years, we have as a society have been like forced to try to not make any judgment so much that it's almost like you're pressing it all down like don't be judgmental, don't be judgmental, and that is kind of creating the elephant in the room where then it's taking away part of our power. Now I am not even sure where I'm going with this, but I can feel it. I can't explain it, but I feel it. I think we've got too societally correct where we're actually harming ourselves away. Am I
Yeah.
making any
N-
sense?
I literally can tell you a story that makes everything that you just said
Okay.
make sense. And I think I've run it by you before because I will say I have some natural people pleasing tendencies that I'm constantly working on. And it will get in my way because I am someone who's very conscious of like, I don't ever want to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't want to ever leave someone feeling invalidated. And that can get in the way of me being able to effectively use discernment and protect myself. And when I started learning, the skill of non-judgmentalness and that there's a difference between evaluative judgments and using discernment, it opened up my world to be able to protect myself more. And the example that I use is a couple years ago, I used to walk home from work. And as a therapist, I mean, sometimes we work late at night. I don't anymore because I've cultivated the life and work that I want for myself. But
We're going to talk about in a minute. Yeah.
so I used to walk home around like 9 p.m. and that's just inherently a more vulnerable time. Like I'm a woman, like sure I'm strong, but like if a man wanted to do something, it could go very wrong. And in the past, like if someone was, before I knew these skills, if there was like a larger figure walking towards me and I could see them in the distance, I would be very concerned that that'll come off as rude if I cross the street or do anything to help myself feel safer. And that's what I think you're referring to is like, yeah,
Exactly.
I'm being overly cautious of how I'm making this other person feel when that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to keep myself safe, and that's discernment. So when I learned this skill of discernment, I was like, oh, it's not my responsibility to make that person feel comfortable. It's my responsibility to make sure that I'm safe. It has nothing to do about who that person is, who I think that person is. All I know is they appear to be bigger and stronger than me. It is 9 o'clock at night. I have a backpack with me and like I'm just trying to get home. So I'm going to do the safe thing for me and cross the street. So it took out all of these like people pleasing filters in my brain. I mean, they're still there if I want to like look at them, but it really helps me be able to say, okay, cool, that's my own evaluation. I need to turn to discernment in this moment. So,
That is a beautiful explanation. And I'm going to take a leap into how I see business people act in that same capacity, right? This is one off the top of my head. So someone hires an employee. They need to tell the employee, you're not doing it right. And if you don't, you're going to be canned, but they don't want to upset them and they worry about them. Somebody hires a vendor, the product's not right. They're waiting for how long? And I'll go, wait a minute, you've got to do a legal letter. You've got to get this product on the shelf. Well, they're trying. I'm like, no, trying doesn't work in business. I'm seeing the younger entrepreneur walk on eggshells around everybody and have their company get in financial trouble. Take it, Erica. I can tell
well,
you see where you're going.
and
Take
to
it.
your point, that's why I love what I do, the skills that I get to teach, because to me, that actually signals a skill deficit in communication. Because you can be direct and say, hey, you're not doing what I need you to do, and deliver that in a way that is going to maintain or even enhance the relationship. And that's being able to use a dialectical and statement, a dialectic meaning two things can exist at once. You're not doing this the way that I need you to, and I know that you can. Here's what I need to happen. And being able to communicate both what isn't happening and how you know this person can do what you need them to do, boom, that person's going to be on your team. They're going to be able to hear you and they're going to want to step up. Mostly,
Yeah,
usually.
yeah, usually. Or you make a new choice, which is better for everybody because they go
Yeah.
someplace they're better and happy. A long time ago, and I don't know where my little brain even got this, but I remember like people sometimes would say to me, not a whole lot because it's not really my persona, but they go, you're so kind, you're so nice. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. That's one thing, it's not true. I am not kind, I am not nice, but what I am, and I always make sure, fair. I strive for fairness. I'm not nice and kind because I think in our society, those words have become not always telling the truth. But fair is really a word to me that means I'm going to have discernment and choose my response accordingly.
It's interesting because now I have fairness is technically an evaluative judgment because fair
Ah,
based on what? What set of
right.
values, what system we're working on. So that's
Interesting.
interesting.
Okay, so I got to come back. That's fascinating. I got to come back on what fair is to me. Okay,
Oh,
now, okay, I'll probably need a therapist after this, but I'm always honest. Fair is I take care of myself first and I do no harm to others secondly.
you sound like you're reading from the ethical code for therapists. Very
Oh,
beautiful.
me too. Because it's like I have to put the oxygen on myself first, right? So my first priority is I take care of myself first. Now, in that, I don't do any harm. But if someone comes, like my street version, I was thinking this when you were talking. See, this is I grew up different. I grew up different, right? My street version is you come in my face, I'm gonna kill you.
And that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of
So,
our first response. That is so true. And a part of that is like, fight, flight, or freeze. And you're like, I'm a fight.
no, I always say one of us is going to where tonight. I don't know which one, but one of us. That's my classic line. I'm like, one of us is going tonight. I don't know who, but one of us is.
I'm never picking a fight with you, Lori.
No, I would say, don't make me get ugly. But yeah, I think this is so fascinating that I could go on forever, but I want to bring this in. I want to bring this next part in. Okay, something I think is just so incredible that you have done with your business, and I do not see this with most entrepreneurs, and I really think that entrepreneurs would benefit from it. And that is creating the life you want and having the business support you. Now, that's my big deal, right? And so many people become a slave to their company and believe they have to from the beginning. And, therapists aren't normally like this. They're like, okay, I do this in the clinical, and they're very sectional, right? But you have
Mhm.
literally done the unique thing of blending it. And we were talking before the show, and Erica said something so cool. I had to write it down, and I only got the little bits of it. You said, and I'm paraphrasing terribly, okay, that you looked at it as an art and a science. The science was you had to make the money, but the art of creating your company was to create it in a way that you could develop as a human being and have the experiences you want to experience. Now, I may have said that a little bit incorrectly, but art and science about creating your business. This is the whole thing
Mhm.
about being a small business that makes life so cool, and people are missing it. Take it from here, Erica.
That was beautifully paraphrased. And don't get me wrong, like I was not born this way, getting to have this view. I started off, I went through my burnout as so many healthcare professionals do. And it just got to a point where I had to seriously look myself in the mirror, and I had some amazing support. And my support system told me, you could just start your own business, do your own thing, make it work for you. And some switches flipped for me, the lights turned on, and I was like, wow, just how my job is an art and a science. I know all the science behind these therapies that I teach, and then I have to put the art into it based off who's sitting in front of me and how well I know them and how to weave these things in so that it all makes sense. Similarly for my life, if I have to make money to live and I love what I do, how can I make sure that the important part, the art, I mean, it's both important, but like it's very important to me that I put on my oxygen mask first, take care of myself so that I can do the science part effectively. And for me, the art of it all is being able to explore the world, keep up with an adequate exercise routine. Exercise, I mean, I have an athletic background, so it's just like always been a very, very important part of my life. And getting to just be and practice being mindful on this planet Earth that we get to inhabit for a brief period of time. So it's been an amazing ride, and I've had to seek help. That's how we met. Lori was like, "Oh, I know this therapy stuff, but when it comes to how do I do my own books and like what do taxes look like and all of that, there's definitely a learning curve, and it was really hard to get the science of it all down, and I'm still learning new things all the time. But the art of it is so beautiful. I get to see different countries. Heck, tomorrow I'm off to Argentina for a
Oh
month,
my
and
God. And you just came back from another country
I
too. I
did, yes.
know.
I just got back from Maui, and tomorrow I leave for Argentina, and then I'm going to Portugal, and then I'm going to Morocco. And it's just such a beautiful thing that I get to fill up my cup. And what that does is it benefits all of the clients that I see. I work virtually, and I'm licensed in California, Florida, and Colorado. And all of my clients benefit tenfold from the fact that I place such an emphasis on taking care of myself so that I can give the best version of my brain to every person that I sit with. And I get to be excited, kind of like how we're talking now. Like, this is so exciting and fun. Like, this is how I get to be with every person that I sit with because I take the fun seriously, like I take the filling
Yeah.
up my cup seriously. So
I know. I always have this expression, if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. Bottom line, I'm just not doing it. And sometimes I have to make things into fun by being a little child and curiosity and say, how can I make this thing I don't want to do and make it fun? But I
mhm.
think that is a key. Now, one of the things I love too is many times as we talk, you'll be like, I'm in this country. I got another client at this. So you are literally traveling and not missing a beat with your company business. And what I want to talk about for just a second, we never chat about this, but it just struck me. So many people have such a challenge with marketing, and therapists typically is one of those professions that they don't understand marketing and they don't know how to do it. But you are
Mhm.
managing to get, which I can imagine a lot from referrals, I really can, but you're managing to keep up a really nice client list while traveling, while experiencing it. How have you approached marketing? And I'm not saying you have to be specific, but you obviously have a different way of looking at it too.
Yeah, I honestly, my favorite way to market myself is you will catch me networking and sitting down and talking with people and honestly connecting multiple times a week. I am one of the few extroverted therapists. A lot of us are very introverted, and we'd prefer to just like stay in our office and like do our thing, which I respect. Like, do your thing, do what fits you. For me, I am like a social butterfly, and I really like I dial in on identifying people who care about people the same way I do. Like they're
Oh, I
doing it
like
because
that.
it's
Oh,
like
wait, I'm
soul
not going to let that go. Wait, we got to stop on that. Most people are like, identify age specific in this. You're like looking at people who care about people like I
yeah.
do. That was too cool. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt, but that was so cool. Keep going.
And it's part of what makes my work that meaningful because to me it's just and do you know the sparks that fly when you get to sit with people that have a similar life purpose. It creates this connection like a spider web that means we get to help that many more people because I use my network. I'm not just when I market myself, I'm not just looking for, hey, how can you help me? I'm looking for how can I help you? You are here doing the work and I'm here doing the work. So if you offer something that I don't and someone comes to me needing that, I want to be able to point them in your direction because I trust you. I know that you care. I know that you have the logical wherewithal and the heart for this. And then, I mean, I am also on like Instagram and YouTube, and I recently started a new project. Would now be a
No, we're
time.
going to talk about that in a minute too.
Okay.
I really want to get
Okay.
into that.
Uh,
In fact, before we go there, we got two questions from the audience, and in one of them you kind of answered, but I want to be clear for everyone. And teletherapy, you're doing teletherapy. They're asking about when you travel, do you do teletherapy? So you can talk about that. And is your business private pay or do you take insurance? These are great
Great
questions, by the way.
question.
So please address
Mhm.
those.
Yeah, so I do offer exclusively telehealth, and it works out for a lot of my clients because I notice I also a lot of people live a similar lifestyle to me that they're also traveling all the time, whether it's for business, pleasure, or both. So that works out. I am an out-of-network provider, so while I am not paneled with insurance, I do offer super bills, which is basically just a very well explained receipt of services that people can submit to their insurance independently and use their out of network benefits. So if someone really wants to work with me and they're hoping to use their insurance in some capacity, I do offer that, but I am an out of network provider. So I'm
And
not.
I tell you what, for me, in my experience with, I'm going to say providers across anyone that would take insurance, right? So I'm going across anything that would take insurance. The small businesses that take insurance do not do well. They cannot provide good service. I always tell people get as close to private pay. You've got people that love working with you. You give the best service and you have money. It really does
Yeah,
make
well,
all
and
the
that's part of what
difference.
I tell people too. Like, people don't realize like you're spread very thin as a therapist who takes
Yeah.
insurance because you have to see so many people to just make your business make sense. And for me, since I get to be private pay, I dedicate a whole solid hour outside of the therapy hour that I see my people to just understanding what it is that they're bringing in to the session more deeply so that I can help them that much more when I see them next. So
Yeah.
it provides me space to be that much more helpful and a better resource for the people I work with.
So I got a quick summary for my audience, especially my frequent flyers that hear me all the time talking about this. Okay, guys, you hear me always say the solopreneurs are the one that are making money. Erica's an excellent example of someone that doesn't have the overhead, solopreneur running a very financially successful and emotionally and supporting successful business while living the life she wants. I told you guys it can happen. And that's one of the reasons I wanted Erica on to demonstrate. And, like I said, there's the solopreneurs are the ones that are really shining today. I want to go into your project, but what I'd like to do is step back. And I don't know if you're going to remember this conversation, but I know you probably will. It just dawned on me. We were talking about one day, one of my usual things that everybody knows I like to rant on about is how you go on social media and there's all this incorrect information about the LLCs and people are going for it and blah, 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 blah. And you were talking about, and I thought it was really fascinating about, I was saying, well, when you see people even giving, I was using it in my world, LLC advice, but I'm like, you can see people giving emotional advice constantly
Yeah.
on YouTube. And
Yeah.
I said, but you never hardly, and I'm not a big social media person. I don't have any social media, right? But then you were sharing with me that for the most part, we're just saying, generally speaking, there's not a lot of therapists on these channels, these social
Mhm.
media to counterbalance what's being said, just like there's not a lot of people
Mhm.
like me, CFOs and EAs, on
Mhm.
there to counterbalance what's being heard. And I was like going, I'm not going on because, I'm not gonna, I got credibility type thing. And then what I thought was even more fascinating is you said, but you're going to go on because and I kept saying to you, it needs to be heard. Okay, you know that conversation.
Yeah, I do.
Fill in the blanks. I think this is a beautiful discussion to start to go where we're wanting to go next.
Yeah, well, and kind of exactly what you said of like, I have credentials, like, I'm not gonna hop online. Like, I don't want to like tarnish my professional name in any way,
Right?
shape, or form. Yes, and that's what so many therapists are worried about too. And also, we have like the whole, what if a client finds me online? Like, is that awkward? And luckily, there's been some time that social media has been around now that there's more of a clear path of how to handle that and just being like upfront and letting your client know, like, you can block me if you want to. If you want to look at my stuff, it's fine. Don't ever message me on social media. If you do, I'm not going to respond because there's no confidentiality guaranteed on those platforms, that type of thing. And what's really been happening, there's kind of like a surge of more therapists being on social media because there are so many influencers, which, like, cool, you want to be an influencer and like do your like outfit of the days, cool, love it, like do your thing. But when it comes to providing mental health education, that needs to be left to the professionals. We need to
Just
know that
like
there's
legal
evidence.
structures. Okay.
Yeah, like we need there to be like evidence-based support that has come from,
Yeah.
like, my brain has been steeped in this information since I started college in 2012 and now it's 2026. Like, there's a lot of my life that I've dedicated to this, and it's important when we're receiving and looking for information like that, it's coming from a credible source that you can that is licensed by a state or multiple states. So that's why we're starting to see more therapists online, and is why I am online. And I even have like a little highlight of like 30 skills in 30 days of like, if someone's just looking for what are some things I can do right now to help myself. And of course, all of it is under the qualification of like, this is not therapy. It is not a replacement for therapy. Please seek your own support if you need it, that type of thing. But it does at least provide an accurate springboard for people.
Let's talk about one of my favorite words, discernment. I know that's kind of my pet peeve. I feel as though in an unhealthy way, people are losing discernment. I don't know exactly fully what I mean by that. It's just my little take in my own little world. I think you got a bigger take on it. So I think we need to start out by explaining what you started to. What is discernment? Because after we're done with this conversation, we're going to launch into your new project.
Okay, yeah, I love that. When it comes to discernment, I created filters in my brain that, like, literally anyone who hears this, you can create the same filters for yourself. And the filters for discernment are, in any given situation, is this safe, dangerous, helpful, unhelpful, effective, or ineffective? That's really, if those are the initial filters that we run any decision or situation through in our minds, we are already setting ourselves up for success. And then being mindful of the opposite of discernment, which is evaluation. This is also where our opinions and preferences lie. And it's important to note, it's not like those are wrong or bad. It's important to notice when they happen. Because I think with it, because we're talking, this is all under the umbrella of non-judgmentalness. I think when we're told like, oh, it's important to be a non-judgmental person, we think that means we can't have an evaluative judgment again in our lives, and if we do, we're bad. No. You are absolutely allowed to have them. You may want to think twice before you say the evaluative thing because you might hurt somebody's feelings and step outside your own values, but it doesn't mean you live a life where there's zero evaluation. It means you live a life where you're aware of the evaluations you're making, and then you also know you have access to these discernment filters.
And where I want to go with discernment and evaluations, I always had this rule, and I don't even know where it came from. And I wasn't even aware of this rule. We're talking back when I was in my 20s and I had my company and I had an employee, and I asked the employee to research some topic. Can't remember what it was, right? The employee came back with an answer and then said, I know, I'll go get two more. And I thought it was so interesting that she specifically said two. And I said, why? And she said, you always require three. Now, I never told her three. And then I started listening to myself and I was like, I always require three. And I realized that I have a built-in mechanism of protecting myself because I was doing things I didn't know where I always require three. And I even do it now. If I'm using any I stop the discussion, open a new one, and ask the question differently and get three opinions. And I can get three different answers, but I
Hmm.
can start to get some validity. I
Hmm.
think we've lost in the discernment and the evaluation and businesses when they make choices. We have
Hmm.
lost the knowledge of even needing to ask a secondary source on everything that comes in our life on a daily basis. Now, that's my belief. I think this is key to an understanding of discernment. What's your thoughts on this?
I agree. And this is where I also see businesses as a very emotional thing because when you talk about getting a second opinion or having like three options, my brain from the skill set I have and share with others is that's actually an emotion regulation tactic. You're actually regulating yourself and providing that safety net because in problem solving, it's helpful to have your number one top pick of like, okay, that option sounds like it will be the best to reach the goal that I have. It's also important to have more than one option. And when we're doing that, that is non-judgmentally brainstorming. So that means like, and when I teach people like problem solving in this way and brainstorming, I tell them if a flying pig could swoop down with a magic wand and solve all your problems, we're starting there. Like I want every ridiculous thing under the sun, wherever we need to get to start us off. And then it's interesting because it like loosens up our minds and lets us get creative with giving ourselves multiple options. And of course, we ultimately come to ones that are like very effective and actually realistic. But that's what like you really are pulling my mind into how problem solving, when we do it effectively, it can regulate our emotions. And in business, we always think, oh, it's just logically oriented. There is no emotion involved. Oh, no. Business
Oh
is
no,
extremely emotional.
it's finance and it's money and it's fear and it's everything. It's more,
Mhm.
I thought I'm going to get in business. I'm not going to have to deal with anybody crying. All my life is people crying all the time now. It's so true. And I love the flying pig with the wand. I always say there's magic fairy dust. Now I got the flying pig with the wand. Okay. I want to stay on this because this is what I find really interesting. So the discernment has to me, and once again, I'm only speaking from my own understanding experience, it's got a next step. And I think this step gets missed. So when I would get the three opinions, I then always knew, and sometimes it was frustrating and would give me a headache. I had to put the human in the loop, me, and I had to analyze the three, and I had to look at the pros and cons, and I had to figure it out, and I had to decide all this. And I had somebody say recently, we need to get the human back in the loop. So what happens is I feel like people get shut down. They hear advice wherever it comes from. They don't even open themselves and they execute and believe the advice. And I think we're not just missing the getting three opinions and the discernment, we're missing the intellectual advantage of a human. And I'm sorry, AI is not taking over the world. I love AI. I use it every day, but it does not have that human loop assessment. Example, AI just told me to build my 100-pound cabinet on the bench and insert it in a van. And it was one of those moments I go, you obviously don't have a body. Did you look at me? How am I going to lift a 100-pound cabinet
Yeah.
through the small opening of the van? What are you talking about? And she was, I'm sorry, I didn't consider that. No, you didn't. No, that's a silly
Duh.
example, but it's true, right? Duh, I know. I was like really bad. I'm like, hello, there's no flying pig with a wand. But anyway, it's
Yeah.
this human in the loop, I think. And one
Hmm.
more thing before you launch with it. Business is all problem solving. We're talking
Yeah.
specifically to businesses. Okay, run with this. Run with this.
That even you saying pros and cons, the next step in problem solving, the way that I teach it is you have all of your options, you pick your top three, you look at the pros and cons for the top three, and then you decide on the best one based off of that. And
Yep.
then when you said we will get feedback and we just go with whatever advice that we get, that's where I'm like, we we are losing the ability to have a flexible mindset, have an open mind, because so often when we receive feedback, we either go into this fixed mindset where we feel like maybe a negative belief is reinforced of like, see, I'm such a loser, or see, I'm not smart enough, or see, I'm not good enough. I'm just going to take this advice and run with it. or we flip into fatalistic mind of like, give up, give in. I'm not going to work on this project anymore because I didn't get the feedback that I wanted. Where in the middle lies that openness and that flexibility. And that's the human aspect. It's the ability to open up with curiosity, one of your favorite words, and
Yeah.
be able to get creative. If we can look at feedback or receiving some advice as an opportunity to integrate that into all of the things we already know, we are going to have the answer on what's going to be the best thing for ourselves and our business.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I keep going in these different pathways. That's what happens when we're together. But I got to pull in something that Monica just said in the chat to everybody, right? And because I think this plays in. She noted we also trust the people who give us that advice, and it's true. And then I thought about it when I saw it and I heard you talking. Okay, this is a Lori thing and everything. I got this. Okay, I'm not as harsh as the words are, but they're the rules in my head. I don't trust anyone, and everybody is lying to me to some degree, and I have to figure out how much. This is how I did so well as a consultant. I would go in, they
Mhm.
go, everything's fine. No, it isn't. I wouldn't be here if everything's fine, right? So what I do is I just realize that even if somebody's giving good advice, I don't know if it's good advice for me and my situation. And so I
Mhm.
maintain that. But I think people do say, well, I trust this person. And suddenly this person who's their best friend that they trust that doesn't know anything about legal structures tells them the right legal structure. I think Monica's onto something that we
Big
also have
time.
to have a consciousness. Can you comment on this?
Big time. Shout out to Monica. That was a very good point. And that's the
Yeah.
whole reason in therapy where you start off is building rapport and a relationship with that therapist. So you know where you feel comfortable trusting them and where you can be vulnerable. And when it comes, and we just build trust over time. I kind of picture it like if we have a jar and like there's marbles that are the trust. It's like, and what happens, the way that we build trust, because usually we're like, how the heck do I even trust this person? Or like, what does
Right.
that look like? It's actually usually the vulnerable things that people share with us. Even if it's a business setting, it doesn't just have to be personal, like how I'm working with people. The more vulnerable and ways that we open up, and that might mean like sharing some of the logistics behind the curtain, like not being just the Oz flying head, scary figure, but showing a little bit of what's behind the curtain. Now, it doesn't mean that you overshare and show all of it, where you have to use discernment on what you do share. But that's how you put the trust marbles into the jar, little by little. And once you have enough marbles in there, that's where it sets us up for magic to happen and for that walk into flexible mind to really get opened up. So that
Yeah,
was,
and I think for me, another level is like I might trust the person, but then I have to say, what is their expert background and experience that allows them to have the proper advice? So I think that's where we mess up because people follow trust, but then they say, well, they're a business owner. And I say, but does that mean that they are a tax person? They just know
yeah.
their business taxes. Are they someone who knows? So I think we have to
Mhm.
filter in the person's expertise. Even when I deal with construction people, because I'm doing a lot of projects, I'll be like, yeah, but they never did this type of construction. They only did that. So they may have a reference, but they don't have exactly the same. So I think
Mhm.
we have to be conscious of the advice given and that person's ability to have expert and experience on that specific advice in relationship to the trust.
Yeah, you have me thinking that my brain goes to the question of like, okay, so like what is getting in the way? And there's probably so many answers to this. The thing that comes to my mind is we're all so busy,
Yeah.
especially if you're someone who's running a business, has a family, maybe you have kids and you have your own social life, all these things. Sometimes we don't have the space to feel like we can get curious and ask these other questions.
Yeah.
Because what if we do have the skills to do this and we simply don't feel like we have the time? We just need to say, okay, you told me you can get this done and you understand taxes, even though you don't do taxes in my area at all. So, but I don't have the
Yeah.
time. So I'm just gonna go with it.
I think so too. And I think that's where, and I'm going to go into your project and we last comment, but see, this is where AI shines to me. Okay. Because
Yeah.
then, like if you turn around and I had to ask three people and we had to find and call three people, I can do three discussions on AI and ask the question differently and get three different answers and start to walk around it. So that's what I do. And I go, is there
Mhm.
any cause over here? And this is where I think AI is great because we can grab different opinions and I don't have to worry about the last grok I spoke to getting mad at this grok because I went behind grok's back and
Yeah,
asked another
there's no, yeah, there's no gossip issues, like
No,
tea.
I was
Yeah.
like, I was like, well, and I even went back and said, now the other grok told me this. Would you like to redefine your answer with this new information? And I pasted, I did that to a human, they'd blow up in my face, right?
Very true. Yeah, like that would be like you're going behind my back. One other thing to the point of AI, you know what's interesting? Because I don't believe AI, at least where it's at right now, is equipped in any way, shape, or form to be a therapist, but it is very well equipped to help you find a therapist. I, for the
Yeah,
first time, had someone find me saying, like, I did two separate chats regarding what I want in a therapist. You were at the top of the list on both, and that's why I called you. I was like, wow, that's
awesome.
pretty cool.
Okay, so now we got to my pro. So first of all, I got to cue this up. So once again, Erica, outside of the box, being curious, not fitting in with this box and boundaries, following what your intuition enjoys and says you want to go to, and now is creating this new platform and marketing idea. And I'm not going to say another word. You go wherever you want with this. Guys, this is wild. Okay, go.
I so I have been thinking for a long time, ever since I created the life and business that I wanted to, where I get to travel all the time. I was like, how do I use this travel to also benefit other people? I've been sitting with that for about a year, and the idea hit me in March. And I just had this idea of what if when I'm traveling, I interview people like literal strangers, and I ask them if they could skip the couch and ask a therapist a question or share their own positive, negative, neutral story about their own therapy, what would they have to say or ask? That was the idea. And I went, and my brain just took it and started running. Like it, by the end of the week, I already had five different interviews and I crowdsourced. I went down to like my local little beach town down here and I just started asking people because first off, I had to be like, can I really just approach strangers? Like, how scary is that going to be? Right? Like, can you imagine? Like, Lori, well, you would hate it. You would
Like, get out of here, you crazy person. Yeah.
yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing. I've always been the person who's talking to everyone. I say good morning to everyone. When I was in college, my teammates, we'd be walking to practice and I'm like saying good morning to everyone else walking to practice. And they're like, do you know them? I'm like, no, but they're like, we're all here doing the same thing. And so like, I am just like, I have the expertise to do this. And I by far and beyond have the personality to do it.
Oh,
And I've been
absolutely.
given, and I've created the opportunity to do it. So I was like, I have to. Like this is just meant to be. And so I have on my Instagram, I have already interviews from so many different places. I was in like Austin, Texas, Miami Beach, Long Beach, California, and now like as I go on my next travels, I'm hoping I'll get some interviews in Argentina and Portugal and Morocco. And I'll be practicing my Spanish while I'm in Argentina. So maybe we'll see an interview in Spanish. But the idea really just like came down into my mind and I took it off with it running. And now these interviews, I'm going to take them and also turn it into a podcast. So I'm the out of office therapist when I host these interviews. I take that information into the office to my podcast and I expand and provide further mental health education on a skills basis so that it is digestible information so that people can walk away feeling like they either learned something or have gained a specific skill that they can implement into their lives right now. Of course, it is all just educational. It is not a replacement for therapy. It's simply information.
So there's so many things I want to unpack here. One of the things that's beautiful that you did is when you got the idea, you didn't go out and buy the most expensive podcast and the most expensive camera. So many people, they get the idea and then they go and put themselves in debt buying all this stuff rather than just executing it in the simplest manner possible. That's number one. Number two, your out of box thinking is going to, and I know it, it's going to blow up. It's going to create marketing advantages that you're not even fully intending to
It
happen.
all
And it's
it
going, it
already
has,
has.
yeah.
Lori, it blew my mind because I did like my intention is just this can help people, sweet, and this is fun for me. And I can't tell, like, I've gotten a surge. I don't have like a bunch of followers on Instagram, but like, it got me so many more followers immediately. I've already had inquiries from people being like, oh, like you interviewed someone I know, or I saw the interview. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I did not expect this to
Yeah.
create this type of reverberation, but cool.
That's the cool thing about being in the flow and just starting to create things. And then what I thought was so fascinating is you started talking about some of the interviews. You found people want to talk. You could approach people, people want to talk. Talk. Tell us about the experiences that you've had in these interviews. First, approaching people. How approachable were they? How did it then evolve into the conversation? And then I'm going to give a third one in here. What are you finding consistently throughout all these different locations? I'm going to throw all that on your table and you just take it.
Hmm. The things that I'm noticing as I'm approaching people is first off, different parts of the United States are different. By far and beyond, New Orleans was the most standoffish. It was very difficult for me to get a word in with anyone. They did not want to really talk about mental health. I found that interesting because I feel like the stereotype about the South is that it's not as mental health oriented. And I was like, interesting. I'm not saying everyone, but that was my experience while I was down there. And then everywhere aside from that one place, everyone that I've talked to, whether they agree to be recorded or not, I think it's important to mention that I still answer their question or I ask them about their story because I am doing this to hopefully help people in any way, shape, or form. But the people who don't want to be recorded, but they want to share something, it is always so positive, and we end up talking for always longer than I anticipate. I'll be like sitting with a stranger for like 30 minutes, but it's so meaningful. And people will get way more vulnerable than I ever imagined that a stranger could get. And I do know part of that comes with the territory of like I introduce myself as a licensed therapist, so people tend to be a bit more of
And
an
your
open book.
personality. You just feel so comfortable to be around. I have to add that. I couldn't let you get away without noting that it's about you too.
Thank you. And actually, to that point, I've had a lot of people also tell me, they're like, I'm not always super receptive to people who just walk up to me, but I could tell you mean no harm. Like you're just
Yeah,
here doing
yeah.
your thing and want to talk to people. I was like, yeah, oh my gosh, okay, cool. I'm glad that it comes off like that. And the people who don't want to talk to me or be recorded, I have still gotten some. The rejection is even positive, to be honest. And I've learned so many amazing things about failure because like I guess if people tell me no, you could label that as failure. To me, it's it's not because most of the time these people are telling me what you're doing is important. Keep doing it. What a cool idea. And if that's failure, that's fine by me. And what I'm learning is it's not failure because my goal is to get people to start talking about mental health in general. And me simply bringing up the topic has put that in that person's mind. And there may be a point later in that day, week, year, lifetime where they're like, remember that random lady who walked up to me and asked if I wanted to talk about mental health? Sweet. Mission accomplished. I was actually successful. And that has just been the best way to fail. It's kind of like the whole failing upward, you know? It's like there isn't really so
And
much.
your story beautifully illustrates what I personally believe. I think that when we really get down to the simplistic view of life and the world and us within it, the lines get so blurred that you realize at the end of the day, we're all humans. We really kind of want the same things on the core level. And whether we're talking about how to be better entrepreneurs or parents or teachers or just to ourselves, it really is much simpler than we make it out to be.
Very true. And that's also why I'm highlighting other people's stories because I think it's important to hear from people that, well, like, what does their, because it's one thing for a professional to tell you what something's supposed to be and supposed to look like. It's another to hear what it was, what things actually looked like. I just posted a story of what somebody's support system looked like and how it was all encompassing of not only professionals, but friendships, teammates, like all these people included. It's important to hear that these things matter because they can feel so small and not meaningful when, like, no, they can be the thing that tips the scale
Yeah.
between being able to support your mental health or not. And I'm really hoping people will, this will encourage people to seek out therapy or just mental health support in any way, because there's lots of ways to support your mental health. But really, therapy is the gift of awareness. And the more aware we are of our own experience, the more we have control over making sure our experience here is what we want it to be.
Absolutely. I think awareness is such a great beginning on it. And I think that, therapy, especially in the what you practice, there's really not a distinction between therapy and self-help, if I define it the way I am, because it's really about trying to achieve your goals. So you offer the programs for the entrepreneur that wants to succeed, as well as the individual who's dealing with some long standing issue from their childhood or what have you, right? They
Yeah.
come to the same point, and I think at the end of the day, I remember there was a gentleman that approached me in a park a long time ago when there was a lot going on in the world, and he was, upset, and I became like the person that he felt like he had to talk about all the political stuff with him. And I stopped him in a second, and he was like, name this. And I said, I got a really cool way we should introduce each other to each other, right? And he looked at me and stopped him in his tracks. And I did it with this kind of little voice. I said, hello, human. I human too. Nice to meet you. Totally changed the discussion. But I had meaning to that. I think at the end of the day, we got to recognize we're all humans. And at the end of the day, that's what's important. I knew this time was going to go so fast that I'd be able to talk forever and ever. So I'm going to say my little spiel and handed it back for you. I think the key about this show is so many, but the crucial underlining is that you can create a business that's profitable, number one. You can create a business that supports your life. It all is really an inside job. The more clarity you can get and become in love with yourself, the more the world and everything around you begins to love you. The more you have discernment and you understand resources and expert advice and you take it accordingly, the less you become dependent on other people and the less that you have to go down wrong pathways, the more you become in control of your own essence. That doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're judgmental. It means you're smart and taking care of yourself. And I think being successful in business, whatever that may be, but financial plays into our overall well-being. And I think it's an important component. And you bring such beautiful, valid insight to all those aspects. I can't thank you enough for being on the show. Last things you'd like to tell to the audience.
I echo everything that you said, and thank you for having me here. The last thought that I had was my heart also goes out to individuals who they have a large light to shine and a business to build. If there is trauma that has happened in your life that ha should have never happened and somehow it did, you can still build the life that you want to. It's important to find support with someone who is a trauma informed or trauma therapist. And like it reminds me because I also do work with eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy for people who have been traumatized. And I feel so often it's like there's this wall up that feels like other pe people can do it, but I can't because this thing happened to me. And yes, that may be blocking you right now. It does not have to block you forever. We always have the power to reclaim our lives. So,
I always wake. In fact, I say every morning when I wake up, I say to my lovely cat Boo, "Hey, I'm still breathing. So are you. What are we going to do with today?" I
yeah.
think that is the way to look at life. I got to have you back on the show. I can already tell that. It's just been a wonderful experience, and I want to make sure that everybody gets the links. Follow Erica and what she's going to do, because who knows where these interviews, they're interesting. Check them out, and you'll definitely learn something. So, Sadie, I'm going to bring you back. Isn't that a fascinating discussion we had today?
I mean, passion. I mean, I'm like so energized for today. I'm just like, woohoo!
So everybody, Sadie is going to stay on like she always does to keep the show live for a little bit. She'll give you the links for Erica, links to get in touch with me. So I have to say goodbye. So to my frequent flyers that are here with me every week, thank you so much. And if you're new to the show, please tune in next week to Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Thank you, Erica. Bye. Bye,
Thank
Sadie.
you
Bye,
so much.
everybody. See you
Bye,
next
Bye.
week.
Lori. Alrighty, guys, you know the drill. I'm gonna hang out for a little bit. I'm just gonna put myself on mute. We got the survey going. Let us know what future webinars you would like, comments. I got the links for you. You know what? And then I was making the assumption, but you know what they say about assumptions? I make the assumption that everyone is a small bit SPDC client, but if you are not, please get in touch with us and become a client of the SPDC. I also put the hyperlink there for all the workshops. So this is for the whole entire network. So we have 7 facilities. So all of our workshops for all 7 facilities are there. So, maybe check it out, see what other, no cost workshops that we have for you. So I'm going to put myself on mute, but let me know if you need anything. I put Erica's information in there, how to get in touch with Lori, past show links. So I said, we got a lot of info happening in the chat for you there. Alrighty, guys. So I'm going to put myself on mute, but don't worry, I will be here. Let me know if you need anything.